I cannot hear you.
Okay, there we are.
Okay,
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, we're recording. I'm gonna let in a few and then I'll change you over to host, okay?
Okay.
Do you hear anything?
I don't hear anybody.
Do you hear anything?
Hello, I'm just letting everybody in here. Hi, Mr. George.
Hey, Katie, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Hi.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Hi, everybody.
So Ms. Keith is starting to let everyone in. We are going to start promptly at 6 o'clock. Okay, good evening, everyone. For those of you who are new to Fuel this year, my name is Katie Jeffrey, and I am the principal here at Fuel. This is my first time running a big Zoom meeting beyond staff, so please be patient with us. I'd like to welcome and thank Mrs. Keith, who is going to be hosting our meeting and reading off of the chat at the end of the meeting. And also to Mr. George, who is our behavior specialist at Fuel. Mr. George, if you want to unmute for a minute and just welcome everybody and tell them about your position, and then we'll get started on the questions.
Okay, can you hear me, Katie?
Yep.
Okay, hello, everybody. How you doing? I'm obviously, like she said, George, I'm the behavior interventionist at the school. I also do whatever administrative work Ms. Jeffrey wants me to do, but I also do a little bit of community outreach as well when we need to touch base with some parents for more specific things. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you. So I did invite Mr. George here. He's going to be an integral part of our plan this fall in Fuel for outreach and parent support. So I just wanted to make sure you had a face to go with the names. So we are going to get started with our frequently asked questions that came through prior to the start of this town hall. And if you have questions as we go along, please type them in the chat. And there's a slide we will get to where I will answer all those at the end. Please make sure you are muted throughout the meeting. I would appreciate that just for feedback. And also, if we do have any unwanted guests in our Zoom, I will end the meeting and then, or Ms. Keefe, I'm sorry, we'll end the meeting and then we would log back in within a couple of minutes. So, so let's get started. So before everything else, I just wanted to share this graphic. And if you can't see it, please type in the chat and Ms. Keefe will let me know. I really want to start our town hall and everything we do this year with a growth mindset for our families and our teachers. These 6 things I think are really, really, really important for what we are about to embark on. The first is that we do not need all the answers in order to get started. So we are going to all make some mistakes along the way. We have spent pretty much every day since we knew we're going virtual and all summer long, trying to prepare for all these different eventualities and how to best support you guys. So that doesn't mean we have all the answers. There are going to be mistakes. However, everything is, and oh, I have a couple people not on mute. If you can make sure you're muted. Not able to do it. Ms. Keefe, I think you can also mute people by clicking on the 3 dots. Also, the 3rd button says my child, their teacher, and I are on the same team. That's going to be key as we move forward. We are here for you, and we want you to know that. We don't always know the full plan. We have a nice first month sketched out for everybody, but again, there's going to be things that aren't working and that we're going to retool and make it so it is better for our kids. Together we can do hard things. I've learned that so much about our staff and all of you since March, so I want us to keep that at the forefront, and also that this is hard, but we can work together for solutions. So I hope as you see some of the things we've put together for you on these questions tonight that you'll see and understand that, and that we will keep this at the forefront throughout the next few months. I'll probably put it in every Fuel newsletter on Sunday evening. So if you're new to Fuel, our newsletters are on, come out on Sundays at 5. All right, so here was the first frequently asked question. So questions about the virtual learning schedule. So asynchronous, what does that even mean? So this is, I'll wait for it to load here. This is the schedule that went out on Monday. I'm not going to go over it all today because the teachers are going to be doing a lot of this, but there are a couple questions that came up that I wanted to address by looking at the calendar. The first is that anything that is highlighted on here is that online live time. So synchronous instruction means we're in sync, we're doing it together. Asynchronous is when students would be working independently, either online or in some of the consumables. We give them like their math workbooks or their ELA reading. That would be asynchronous, would be something they do on their own. You would see these blocks of time, and especially for our younger students, our Montessori and our 3rd grade, and the Montessori is on a little bit of a different schedule. You will say like, wow, like 9:15 to 10:45, that's a long time to be online. What that will actually look like in the virtual world, it will be that there might be a mini lesson, like a 15-minute mini lesson where the teacher is teaching the key teaching point for the day or the week, depending on the lesson and subject area. And so they will do that mini lesson. The students might do a solve and share just like they would do in person at the carpet. And then they will go out to small groups or independent tasks. So there may be during that 9:15 to 10:45 time where your student is actually not live with the teacher, but is working on work and submitting it. Or they may be off for about 30 minutes and then be asked to come back on. So those things will be worked out as we get our groups together and we learn more about our students. But I don't want you to think that that 9:15 to 10:45 is always, or in the afternoon, the 12:45 to 2:15, going to be a straight 90-minute block. That is not how we would teach in person, and that is not how we'll be teaching online. So I hope that alleviates some of those questions. If you have additional, those can go in the chat. I'll come back to that. This is also an example. Some people are wondering, well, how are you going to communicate with us? So this is kind of hard to see, but it gives you kind of a sense. This is an example of what the students might see on their Monday button. So they're going to click. It's going to be a lot more organized than last year, where they might click on their Monday button, and then here is everything they need for the day and the time blocks. For our 5th grade students, our 4th grade students, there is quite a big expectation that they will do a lot of that independent time. You or your caregiver, or maybe an older child at home who's maybe managing their time should kind of check in and say, oh, it's 9 o'clock. Are you getting ready to go? But really our older students with this kind of setup will be able, for the most part, especially once we train them, just like at school, in the systems, they will be able to go on and do their work on their own and get the feedback from the teacher. So we really tried to streamline. I just wanted to show you an example of what we've been working on. Next frequently asked questions were about instruction as well. So the question was, how will kids be held accountable for work completed? For example, if they are asked to write a paragraph, how will teachers review and discuss with students? So they will be expected to complete work each week and will be provided feedback on their work. So that's a little bit different from when we were in crisis teaching in the springtime. There wasn't as much live time, there wasn't much instructional time, and there wasn't as much feedback. So in the paragraph example that was provided in the question, students might submit their writing to their teacher via like a Google Doc, and then they would receive feedback using the comments in Google Doc. The students are actually, our older students are already versed in doing this with each other collaboratively. So the teacher will get feedback, and then we'd expect the student to make some changes, or they would see areas to work on for the next time we do that practice work. Other programs we use like Envision Online, IXL, which was very successful in our summer school program. These provide students with real-time feedback on their work, and teachers receive the results right away, which then inform that small group teaching that we were talking about. Teachers can also follow up on reteaching with our small group structure. They might then post a couple mini lessons that they remake if some students were getting it. So, okay, before you go practice this again, watch this video. That's that kind of real-time teaching that we're excited to have that we always get in person. Friday is also an available day for that completion of work. So as I'm sure all of you realize and your students realize and our teachers realize, this is very difficult to shift to this much time. We do not have 6 hours a day of online school or online time because that is not developmentally appropriate for children. Most of the research that's gone on in the last year has suggested that it would be half the time that we would normally be in person, so about 7 hours a day, half the time would be what we provide live instruction. So that's sort of a big part of where our schedule came from. So that Friday day is a nice catch-up day. It's a day for teachers to curate the work and give feedback. It's a day where they will be working in teams to fix some of the problems. They will go on and create all the next week's content on the sites that the students will be using. So there will be a lot of work on the teacher end on Friday, but for the student and the family, one, it's a little bit of a break from the online time, but it's also a chance to get do some catch up and see what's missing and go on and finish up work. The next question under instruction was, will any of the lessons be recorded for kids to view at a later time if they can't be on the Meet? Unfortunately, due to student privacy laws, we cannot record lessons. Our teachers will always, of course, be willing to work with our kids who may have missed a lesson, just as they would when we are in our brick and mortar school building. The child was absent or ill or out for any other reason. So that would not be any different than when we were in person and if students miss school. Will there be a point in the school year where in-person learning will be an option? This was my favorite question. So currently the plan adopted by the Board of Education calls for us to return the second semester with a start date of January 19th. However, since the board adopted the original plan, so this is important, I got to read it word for word, the state of Michigan has passed new legislation which requires our return to learn plan to be reauthorized monthly. As such, at each month's Board of Education meeting, they will discuss and potentially amend the Return to Learn plan depending on current circumstances. So that is the update, but right now, as the board has it standing, it would be January 19th, and that's what we have planned for. How will resource room services be structured and delivered this year? On the Ferndale Facebook page, there is the live recording of the special education town hall last night that Natalie Kulikowski and our PAC parents and some of our teachers provided some feedback for special ed parents. But our resource room services will be virtual for many students, and there will also be some in-person time potentially within the learning lab. So the resource, if your child receives resource room services, your resource room teacher will be contacting you, discussing your child's individual plan. The next section we had of questions was our attendance and online learning questions. So the question was, what happens if a student does not log in for the morning meeting or essential? What you'll see in all of these questions really is that we are really trying to be flexible with our families. So if you have to miss a morning meeting, if you have to miss an essential class, you know, the essential classes, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Those are scheduled throughout the day, trying to do it within that blue time and then some additional time, especially for students who love gym. They could maybe attend gym twice a day if they want. So there's going to be some scheduled time for specials and some time for drop-in. But if they do not, if they have to miss those things, if you're working with your family, you know, we want you to try your best. We do think the morning meeting is vitally important because the teachers are going to go over the schedule for the day, talk about what they're going to be doing throughout the day, reminding them things from the previous day. So that's important. But we know that we have to be flexible. This is a very difficult time for everybody. So we don't want you to stress, but we do want you to work with your teacher. Similar question, what if kids have to miss out on the actual instructional Google Meets? Is that considered an absence? Will there be leniency for things like technology issues? So yes, so virtual attendance is obviously different than our in-person attendance, but our teachers will make, you know, they'll work with you to make sure your child is on track for attendance and getting things completed that are, you know, essential for their learning and their growth this year. We know the internet will not work sometimes. We know that there will be family commitments and conflicts, and sometimes you just won't be able to get online. We know that. We all dealt with it in the spring. It could happen to your teacher. This is not a foolproof plan. So in that case, and many of our teachers will be coming in to teach in their building, but some will be also teaching from home. Some are alternating their schedules. So we know, I mean, we had a no power day at Fuel last year. So we know things happen, and we are understanding and flexible. Assignments will always be posted for students to do at their own pace as well each week. So the biggest thing that I ask is that you just keep lines of communication open with the teacher. If things are going on, we have to communicate. I completely get it. I'm done with email. I'm done with texting. I'm done with Facebook. I am a parent as well of a 5th and a 2nd grader. I feel you. But if we don't hear from you and we don't know, then we are going to be reaching out. That is Mr. George's job. That is my job. We want to make sure you guys are okay. We want to make sure your kids are okay. So if you know something is coming up or you're having problems, we just ask that you communicate with us. We feel a very fast turnaround on communication, and we're here for you. So please just make sure you're reaching out to us all the time if necessary. How will synchronous office hours work? So this question was about Friday. Great question. Will parents and students have an assigned time to check in with the teacher each Friday, every other Friday? What should I expect Fridays to look like for me and my child? So currently we have that as a completely asynchronous day for your child. There is a half hour each teacher will host that day. Initially, that is for parent call-ins. You can call into their meet time to ask questions, to give feedback. If you want a one meeting, you would schedule that with the teacher separately. But that's kind of just like a town hall opportunity, especially in the first month, so we can figure out and troubleshoot what's going on. Eventually your child, yeah, the teacher may say, I'm going to use my 30 minutes office hours this week. I really want to reteach this one concept to these 10 kids that they're right there. We just need a little bit more time together. So yes, at some point, maybe your child will be invited to that Friday, but that is not a mandatory day. That is an asynchronous day for you and for your family. And the work that they will have on their schedule for that day would be all work that does not require them getting on live with the teacher. Tell me if I go too fast. Oh, Mr. George or Ms. Keefe, you got to tell me. All right, first 2 weeks, couple of questions. So I, again, not going to go too far in depth on this tonight because you're going to get communications over the next week. But I just wanted to point out from our welcome back letter, Mrs. Keefe and I sent very similar letter because we are K-5 aligned this fall. We are spending our first 2 weeks with very little online screen time. The goal of this is to build community and for our teachers to meet your kids, to meet you, whether virtually or, as you see, we do have some outdoor meet and greets that we are going to be scheduling. So some people are like ready to go and want to get on right away. I need to tell you that in-person instruction, we do not start that rigorous academic work until at least 2 weeks into the school year, just like we are doing virtually. We spend time going over routines, building community, teaching them to use the computers, all the things that we have to do online in a virtual setting as well. So that first week is going to be a community building week where we will have for 2 weeks a 9 to 10 o'clock daily online class meeting. For our younger students, that might be a little bit shorter than the full hour. It's going to be time to do icebreakers, our first 4 days work that we would normally do in school, getting to know the teacher, some fun brain breaks, and just really getting to know one another. We have tried at Fuel, as we're finishing up our class list, we've tried to group students with a few more students from their classroom from the previous year than we normally would have done to try and help build that sense of community as well. Then what's going to happen is from 10 to 3 on each of those days, the teachers are going to sign up once we have their class lists out to them. They will send out a sign up genius for parents to sign up for like a 15 to 20 minute time block outdoors where you will be able to pick up all your materials. We're giving many materials, anything we think they will have to have at home, we are providing. And they'll meet their teachers. They're going to ask a few questions, learn a little bit about your student, all with masks on, outdoors, in a safe setting. If you feel that you and your family do not want to do an in-person meet and greet, you would sign up for a virtual meet and greet time. The teachers will be scheduling those out. One of the questions that's going to come up, but since I'm on here, was will there be evening meet and greet times? We are going to try. We are working within the teachers' hours and schedules as well, but we are going to look at flexing at least one evening that will be available for each teacher's sign-up genius. We're trying to work with their families and all of their back to school as well. So that flex time, there will be some evening opportunities available and then virtual. And again, you as a parent, like if you're comfortable and your 5th grader can come up and get their materials on their bike, you're welcome to send them as well. It doesn't have to be that the parent's there. It's great if you're able to make it work, but we know this is during the work week. School pictures, I'll talk about in a minute. In the second week of school, that community building assessment, this again will be a daily online class meeting, full class. And then your child will be scheduled throughout the week for some additional one-on-one time. So we'll do some a quick literacy assessment. We might ask them to read to us online. The teachers will be asking a reading inventory of some of the things that what books they're interested in. So when we can get book bags together for students, we're really working on their interests. So it's really a nice get to know time. And then there will also be some online training for our students in the technology tools that they'll be using. And then on the week of the 14th, we'll kick off that synchronous schedule and work out all of the things that are going to come up. So I answered will there be evening meet and greets? So for school pictures, it is not mandatory. I did send in my blast today, the school picture packet. We're really trying to push online ordering just so that we're not exchanging anything, but there will be paper packets available that day. We have the pictures set up from 9 to 3, all 4 days at the building. And what will happen is after you've met your teacher, you can head over near the latchkey room in the back of the building. Students would go in with a mask. The parents would not be coming into the building. They would go right into the latchkey room, get their picture taken, and Kaiser has assured us all of the social distancing measures will be in place with no touch. And then the students would exit out the other door of the latchkey. So it would be one way in, one way out. If you are not comfortable with that, you do not have to stop and do the school picture. We'll just remind you that it's there if you would like it. We had some parents ask about school picture an evening. We will be having an evening night if you cannot make it that 9 to 3, the first week of school. We will have a makeup picture night on October 13th from, I think Mrs. Keefe, to correct me, I think it's 3 to 7 or 4 to 7. So there will be an evening makeup time, just like we would have in school would be a makeup day. How am I doing on time? All right, assessment and testing. How will grades be handled during remote learning? So good question. I'll find all my notes. So grades during remote learning, they will be assessed this year. They will have their pre-tests and their math and their post-assessments. Those are generally completed online in the Envision program. They will have their weekly ELA assessments. Depending on how the teaching's going that week, we may have to move our schedule around a little bit. But there will be grades. We are still working at the elementary level. We do not normally use the MyStar gradebook feature. If you have a secondary student, you're very familiar with that. We believe that's going to be the easiest way for us to communicate to our parents when major assignments that should be have done, those summative assessments, not necessarily that all the practice won't go in MyStar, but those big things that really tell us this is what they know and this is what they're learning. We will have our standard report cards in January and in June as we normally would, with that feedback and assessment. We're also looking at what kind of progress reporting we're able to do to give you more updates. I have a 5th grader who I've been trying to make do work this summer, and sometimes I've told it's been done and it is not done. So I learned that lesson the hard way. So we are going to look at some better feedback loops for parents as we get going. Will the usual standardized testing be given this year? So currently, yes, you can always contact your legislatures regarding this question. But yes, currently the M-STEP is going to be held in April for 5th grade and May for 3rd and 4th grade. However, the state of Michigan did, just like last year, apply for a waiver to the federal government to not give testing this year while we were still in a time of a pandemic, a global pandemic. So currently it is on. We'll see what happens with the legislature, just like last year. The new state plan that was passed this past weekend in Michigan also requires an assessment in the first 9 weeks of school and then again in the late winter or spring. And it does need to be one of the approved assessments. So currently that would, for us, would be NWA. They have worked to push NWA to a virtual setting. So information will be forthcoming on that. That is just formative. That does not harm your student. All NWA really does is give the teachers some in-depth information about where they are at in their learning and what things they need to be taught to move forward. So, and then of course, as I mentioned, we will be doing some one-on-one assessments, particularly in the 3rd and 4th grades in the literacy, the read alouds and just seeing fluency and those kind of things. The teachers are better at answering that question than me. All right, workload working adults. So I laughed at this question because, oh my gosh, this is me. So the question was, how are you handling this if both or one of the parents work out of the home? How are parents to handle the instruction when one works out of the home, that would be Mrs. Jeffrey, and the other parent is home with a deadline or heavy workload, that would be Mr. Jeffrey. So like I said at the beginning, my family did not do well during that. We were lucky. We had both of us here, both of us home, and it was still a struggle. So I feel your struggle. I'm telling you that we will work with you. We will try, the more again, that the lines of communication are open with us about what's working and what's not. We will be flexible, but this is also school. We are going to be providing all those things to the best of our ability that we provide in person, from the actual instruction to the love and care, through morning meetings to building the community, all those things that we do in person, we and Ferdy are really trying to transfer to this experience. So there is some routine and normalcy as best as we can do for your kids. So my answer on this is we will be flexible. We too, as the educators in the building, many of us have families and are facing the same uphill battle. So we are asking for patience with, that you have patience with us and we'll have patience with you. So I can't give you the best answer to that right now, other than please communicate with us and we will be as flexible as we can, while also holding students accountable for doing the work and engaging with us, but then also taking your feedback when it's not working and making changes. Essentials classes. So how are you handling music, art, gym, and Spanish virtually? So this is where I think I am missing some notes. So we are still working on the exact schedule. It's going to be kind of a mixed bag for essentials. So there are going to be live synchronous lessons. So instead of the taped lessons that the essentials teachers had last year, there will be some live teaching. And so the kids can dial into the Meet. They will then see Mr. Mitchell, for example, like one of the objects that's going home in your materials. Mr. Mitchell is sending home a tennis ball for everybody. It's for an agility unit that he's putting together. So Mr. Mitchell would be online. They would join in. They would do some movements, some warm up, just like they would do in the gym. And then he would lead them through whatever unit or skill he's working on. Obviously, some of the things we do in person, like floor hockey, scooters and climbing wall, we aren't able to translate to the virtual, but we are trying to use, and with Jim as an example, use that time for breaks for children and for fun and joy and to do some different things and get them up and get them moving. In art, get them doing projects. In music, get them singing. It's really hard to sing synchronously together, but we may do some small groups. So we're really trying to get innovative and work with other districts for what that will look like. So they will have live times. They'll also have more drop-in times on Friday. So if you want more online time for your kid on Friday, you want a little bit more structure, there will be those specials times that will be cadenced on Friday that they can actually join in. Spanish particularly, Mr. Senor Uresti is going to be working in our learning labs a bit as well. And he's gonna have, most of his lessons will be on Duolingo, which will not be live. That will allow the students to go on and complete work at their level. Was very successful last year in the spring. So we'll be doing that. And then on Friday, his office hours, he'll have an hour of office hours, I think about an hour, where he will provide speaking time where they'll practice speaking as well. So that's sort of how Spanish is going to look, at least initially. All right, and the big burning question, will the fifth graders begin orchestra and band during the virtual learning period, or will it be postponed? If it will begin in the first semester, what is the plan, like selecting an instrument, etc. So we had been working very hard to try and do instruments in hands right away, but there are definitely some safety concerns. Fifth grade beginner band and orchestra spend much of their first 4 months, not just making music, but learning to tune an instrument and how to set up the instrument, and those things are hands-on. So here's what we're doing. Mr. Jameson, Mr. Moy, Ms. Schroeder, and Mr. Burke are going to be teaching our fifth graders. There will be 2 days a week that are not currently on the schedule. I'll be communicating just with fifth grade families about that. That will be a half-hour time with our band and orchestra teachers. And these are some of the things they'll be doing. They will be first strengthening instrumental students' pitch and rhythm reading using their recorder. So all the fourth graders last year received a recorder. If you are new to our school as a fifth grader this year, we will get you a recorder at materials pickup or within the first 2 weeks. I gotta check my inventory. And then they'll be using their recorder and voices and hands as the vehicle to work on those things. The second thing our band and orchestra kids will be doing is learning how to use and control Airstream. This is relevant for band students eventually, but we're going to teach everybody. They will familiarize instrumental students' awareness of all the instrument options so that when we can fit them, so when it is safe to do the fittings, they will be ready to make informed choices. They will also be teaching expectations and procedures of how instrumental music class will work. And then the way our team is looking at it is this package of goals together allows us to get a rapid start when we can actually start real instruments. We have also discussed things like guest drop-ins from our high school and middle school band and orchestra students to play for our students and teach them about the instruments. We've talked about possible, as the district has spoken of, pop-up events where our fifth graders would be invited or be given a concert outdoors. So there's really cool ideas our team is working on. What will happen is fifth grade students will be sent a survey again, just like they were in the spring. Do you want your child to participate in this band and orchestra first semester and thus hopefully in person second semester? with fittings and things. And if you do, then they would sign up and we would then give them, they would be assigned by teachers. So in smaller groups as well with the 4 teachers. So that is where we're at on band and orchestra, and that is always evolving as well. Getting to the end. Technology. What happens if a child cannot be logged in from home for any reason? So there are 2 options. The very first one, and we're going to give you hopefully like a little magnet to have right at home. There's a service desk that is ready for parent calls to help troubleshoot right then and there. The difference from crisis schooling to school this year is that if your child is having trouble getting on the Google Meets, like in real time, the teacher cannot stop their instruction to troubleshoot and call parents and things like that. So it's going to be a little bit different than the fall. So we'll have the service desk available for you. Obviously, after the live teaching time, the teacher would then follow up and call you. If you sent them an email, they'd follow up and try and troubleshoot, but really that is the service desk responsibility. So there will be a phone number that you can call for right then real-time help. And then if that doesn't solve the problem, then I would ask that you contact our main office. Our secretaries will be there along with myself, or you can email me directly so we can work towards a solution and get it worked out for your student. Particularly in the first month, we are expecting there to be problems. So please know that we get it. We know that's going to be part of what we're working through. The other question was, where and when can I pick up a device? So this is at Ferndale High School. This is also on the webpage. Yep. So there's pickup times tomorrow and Friday from 8 to 4. Oh, today we missed that one. Sorry. Tomorrow and Friday from 8 to 4, the 24th from 8 to 4, and the 26th from 1 to 7:30. There was a technology survey that went out. We would love if you filled that out, but you do not have to have signed up in order to go pick up a Chromebook. You would just go up to the high school during that time, those times, to be able to get a device. Okay. I am going to stop sharing for a minute. I'll come back just at the end. Get all your I get to see your faces now. So Miss Keefe, if you can start. Hey, here's some of my kiddos.
Yes, the first question was actually already answered. What's your official first day of school? And someone chatted it in and said August 31st. That is the first day. And then the only other question right now is, when will parents know whether or not their child will or can attend the learning labs?
Great question. So we are actually working on that over the next 2 weeks. So the labs would not actually begin until September 14th, just like the synchronous instruction. Again, we're doing that slow roll and making the building safe, to be honest. So there will be, initially, as I said in my letter, Mr. George and I have walked the building. Mr. Stottlemyre and I have walked the building. We have gone through and looked at the spaces that would be the most safe for our staff and students. We do have many staff that are coming in, our paras, our support staff are coming in to support this time. So we will start small at Fuel. We have, as I said in my letter, a certain amount of spots. We're going to start with our special education students and our students that need right away those in-person services, and also students that are having problem accessing technology, although the district is working on a great deal with Comcast actually to try and prevent that problem. So that's really an amazing thing the board actually talked about a couple of weeks ago. And then we would be looking at students who we didn't see at all in the springtime because we're worried and we need to kind of get caught up and see. And then my goal is, and Mrs. Keefe's goal, I think is the same goal, is that as soon as we have that first group in, and we've been running that for a week or two, seeing what bathrooms are like, what does cleaning look like, how is breakfast going, and we're doing it on that smaller scale. And then when we feel, yes, okay, we've got this and we've got the staff, now we can open up this room for another 10 students and another. So end of September is what Mrs. Keefe and I are aiming for, to have done 2 weeks of the labs with our highest need students. And then moving on to opening them. That's what I have for right now. This is new. So I have to tell you, for those labs, most important thing to me, to our district, is the safety of our students and staff. So I am not going to rush it to give access I'm not going to do it safely. So we are going to start small and know all how to do it right, and then we would be expanding opportunities for those in need.
Okay, thank you. A couple more questions have come through. What is the last day of the fall semester?
If January 19th is the start of the second semester, I believe Martin Luther King Day may be the 18th, 17th, 16th, January 15th.
Okay. Next question is actually for me. Will there be a meeting for lower? Yes. Tomorrow night, we'll be doing the same thing on replay, only with some of the specifics for lower. And then we both have meetings again next week for those that could not attend tonight and tomorrow night. Next question for you, Ms. Jeffrey. Do the Montessori students take NWEA?
Yes, each year.
Okay.
That's a requirement.
Okay. When will we know what teacher our child is assigned?
That's the burning question. The same day you normally would. So it will be August 26th, which would have been our Popsicles with the Principal night. We're doing some version of that with the meet and greets the following week. So on the evening of the 26th, I believe 5 o'clock, Mrs. Keith, it'll actually be viewable in MyStar, but it'll be that evening as well, or Thursday morning. The teachers will be sending their welcome letters that you would normally get in person. So you should be on the lookout via email that evening for those individual messages from your teacher.
Do you recommend picking up the school Chromebook even if your child has their own laptop?
No, I mean, I would say let's try. You might try that because there will be additional throughout September. If it was used in the spring and it worked, no, you don't need a Chromebook. Sometimes a PC is actually even has more power than a Chromebook. I guess it depends on the computer you have. If it's functioning well, it should work with everything that we're doing. Everything is just via a browser, so there's no like downloadable programs or anything like that. Everything is via the browser.
Okay.
But then if you try those Google Meets, what's nice is only doing an hour that beginning of 2 weeks will let us find out. You would find out then, and then you may want to go pick one up.
Will all the teachers be working from the Fuel building Monday through Friday or from home?
It is up to the teachers currently. We have several Fuel staff members that are working from their classrooms as long as we remain in phase 4. So some are working from their classrooms and some are working from home based on their comfort level, or, you know, like Mr. Jeffrey, for example, has piano. So he will be working from home, for example. So it's a mix. Some will be in their classrooms and some will not.
Okay. Will speech be delivered as a virtual meet or in person?
Both. So once we, again, have the Learning Lab scheduled, if the speech students that Ms. Griffin at Fuel, Ms. Griffin will be available during Learning Lab times to do some in person, and then she will schedule virtual times as well. And those will kind of work within in the bounds of the family's needs and the schedule.
Okay, where are the lessons coming from? Are they coming from district curriculum or from, they wrote advanced ed, but I think they meant the education site.
Accelerate, yeah.
Yes.
So our 3rd through 5th grade will be using our normal district curriculum. So we have Envision for math, we have Journeys for ELA, along with the MESA units, which is some of the writing units that will just translate. Those are the Oakland Schools curriculum, which we've done before. It actually was our curriculum 2 years ago. So some of those writing units transfer a little bit better, particularly in 5th grade, the Journeys writing units. So that's for ELA. For science, we'll be doing what we normally have in person, our Battle Creek kits. They actually have those modules. Some of them are online. So we'd be using Mystery Science and the Battle Creek kits. And some cool, I mean, we're really trying with social studies and science with our limited online time. One of the things we're really trying to do is use projects and passion projects and eventually collaborative projects where maybe 4 kids are assigned to the same set of Google Slides. They work together. We're really trying at the upper level to use that science and social studies for inquiry and interest. And we did not find within Accelerate, while we may use a few of the resources from there that we think align our district curriculum, our teachers felt that they could use and create the systems that we already had at our level, more of a secondary resource for Accelerate. Did I address that one, Diana? Is
I
that?
believe so, yes. How are the 504 plans being worked out?
So Mrs. Rosnowski is still our 504 coordinator for the building. If your child via their 504, for example, has brain breaks, that those things would be worked in with the teacher. So the teachers will still get copies of the 504s and the IEPs and will be expected to implement a lot of the things in a 504, like an allergy one, for example, would not be relevant unless you're coming into the learning lab. So then we would, we're still nobody's bringing food into the building. The breakfast is the breakfast that we would provide. So for an allergy 504, we would follow all the same policies if they were in the learning lab. For a 504 that included breaks in the day does have breaks already, but your teacher will work out with your student once we're seeing how they're doing in those chunks of times. Okay, does the student need to do an extra lap around or come back in 5 minutes? So we don't know exactly how they'll translate, but the teachers have access to them. Many of the things in 504s we do, like brain breaks, walks, meeting, check-ins, meditations, those things we're going to embed in the schedule, like Mrs. Malika, for example. Every day on that refocus time that's on the schedule, we'll be having an open meeting for K-5 kids so they can call in right before their afternoon session and do a quick yoga with her, meditation, breathing. So she's going to do these kind of global opportunities. If your student has a 504 that includes services like breaks with Mrs. Malika, for example, she will still be running those things. She'll be running lunch groups, both at lower and at upper.
Okay.
Mr. George would also, if your student already was working with Mr. George or was a student that Mr. George has been working with your family, Mr. George will be running some groups as well. But he and I are going to be pretty heavy in the learning labs initially, and then family outreach, at least in that September time.
How can I get my child's MyStar login?
You can email mystarhelp@ferndaleschools.org. So I'm typing that into the chat.
Okay, great, thanks. Will there be opportunities for outdoor learning?
Yes. So one of our goals through that is via the pop-up opportunity that was discussed at the board. So different teachers, different classes can do optional pop-ups. We cannot require your students, our teachers to come in person. That was the board's the board's decision at the beginning of August was about the safety of our school family. So we are offering, all of our pop-ups will be outdoor events. I'm planning to do an outdoor playground yoga in mid-September. So we will have things like that in terms of actual outdoor activities that the classes might participate in. It's going to be dependent on obviously the teacher's schedule, and nothing we can do can be mandatory. So we wouldn't do, for example, a full lesson outdoors. That would disadvantage and not be equitable for any student that was not going to be able or families who want to come. So the pop-up events will be optional.
Okay. Are the Chromebooks limited, like the school browser, to limit distractions?
I have no idea. I will write that question down.
I'm not sure either.
Generally, I don't think so, because you'd be using your own internet. So yeah, when they're on our secure server, but did anybody with me a few years ago, Mr. George and I had sent out a few years ago some really good home internet safety links. I'll include that in one of my first newsletters. Some of the, Emily said on my son uses login, even our computer is limited.
Oh,
Maybe that'll take care of it. I'll find out from tech and send that out in our first newsletter.
okay. Can you please repeat what to expect the first week of school? Is it just meet and greet with the class and teachers, or will there be work and assignments?
Week 1, if there is an assignment, just like in school, it might be go on and create, like one of the things that's big in educator Facebook right now is go on and create your Bitmoji locker. So you get to decorate your own virtual locker. So things like that may be happening those first 2 weeks. They may say, just like they would at school, all right, for morning meeting tomorrow, get 5 things, in your house that represent, or draw 5 pictures of something that represent you. And then they might share over the course of the week, they're all about me. So we're going to be doing the things that, get them to know one another, get them to know the teacher. They'll do dancing and things like that, but will there be a heavy workload the first 2 weeks? No. Secondly, there is, to repeat the time of that first week, it's 9 to 10 for a login of morning meeting, getting them used to using that Google Meet. And then there are the signed up, so you will sign up for your time for your individual meeting group. That way we'd never have more on the playground than 20, 25 families at a time over the course of that outside time.
Okay. This next question I can help answer a little bit. It says, will there be opportunities for Fuel students to buddy with lower students virtually? So we're thinking about that, working on that. What we need to do is just get started with everything first, and then we can go from there. But it is part of our school families that we've had for years. So definitely something that we want to be able to find a solution for and a way to work around virtually. So, anything to add, Ms. Jeffrey?
Nope. We are definitely committed once we get going. So Miss Keefe always says it takes the first 6 weeks, and you hear this in Montessori all the time as well. It's first 6 weeks to normalize. We've got to normalize. We've got to get used to things. We've got to teach the platforms. There will be parent training nights. Mrs. Keefe and I, I'm sure, will do a number of town halls for troubleshooting and things like that. So we have to normalize first, but then we want to provide those extra opportunities. Like at Fuel Announcements Club, we're going to try and figure out a way for Announcements Club to do those morning bells that our staff did. We're hoping our Announcements Club will do that. Student Council will meet. We're going to try and provide those group opportunities, but we do need about 6 weeks to get started and everybody to get comfortable with what we're doing. But our goal is to provide as many enrichment opportunities and the things that we would have in person virtually. We just have to be creative.
This next question is about our highest risk families and students. How are we supporting them, and how are we supporting students that need IEPs?
So again, for the IEP end of it, I would like to direct you to the Facebook Live event that was held last night. It's on the Ferndale Facebook page because so many of the questions are answered there. Our resource room staff, our special ed staff, our speech therapists, OT, PT, they have been working tirelessly the last few weeks with Ms. Kulikowski, our special ed director, to create the best possible plan and individualize those plans for our students. So they will be in very frequent, clear communication with you about your students' plan. And again, we are starting our list for the labs are based on those students who need those in-person services as well. In terms of our most at risk, our families in most need of support, that is where Mr. George, myself, Ms. Rosnowski, Ms. Malika, we will be working tirelessly to identify, and again, I've said we have our list from last year that we're starting with of who we didn't see very much in the spring, but we will be working tirelessly to support them. I really do encourage you, and through your friends circles, I do encourage you to also have to complete the COVID screener that went out earlier this week on Remind from Bill Good. That will allow us to see our families who have had some trauma or have lost family members, so we can get them right away, our students' support if families want that support. That is the goal of the screener as one example. Mr. George, do you want to speak? We only have about 10 minutes, but do you want to speak any more to your part and what you're planning?
No, I think you said everything. The big thing is outreaching those parents who weren't able to get on this summer. I'm gonna be part of the support when the school starts in our pods. So it was well thought out and well said.
Thank you. And we are still going to have Blessings in a Backpack going as well, just around the same timeline as we would normally start in the fall. So normally. So a couple more questions. We have about.
Okay, if you could mention again about Spanish and music music/instruments. Just real quick, that person missed it, but this is recorded, so they'll be able to hear it.
Yeah, that was about 6:35, I think, if you want to go back about 35, 40 minutes in. So specials will be, there will be some live time and then some asynchronous work that students can do. There will also be a little bit more time on Fridays for specials than, since there's no real gen ed time for, I'm sorry, I call them specials, but we're really trying to move towards essentials, especially in our virtual environment. We believe that music, art, gym, and providing opportunities for the students are really important during this time. So, so our essentials will have a little bit more time on Fridays, where if you want your child to be online on Fridays, you're like, I need an hour, they would have that time to be able to go and do more practice and do some additional things in gym, music, art. Spanish will be mostly asynchronous, so we'll use the Duolingo program, which was very, very successful in the spring, where students work at their own pace on Spanish and Señor Uresti gives them feedback. And then on Friday would be drop-ins, talking time, like time to practice Spanish and play some games with Señor. So that's the current plan. And Señor will also be in person in our building as well.
And then there were several comments about the limited browser and just parents giving feedback, making sure that we pay attention to that technology. Great suggestion about doing a parent university on tech safety. I think that's already in the works. So
Okay.
Look for more information about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this is so much of a question. It says, if families want to do some form of small group learning, is it better to do that if they're in the same class?
It doesn't really matter this year. We are committed to the classes being on the same, so that the teachers have actually been working in retreats the last 2 weeks. So whatever class they're in by grade level, they are doing the same, the schedule is the same. So that sample slide I showed you a bit ago, that slide, that work plan for the week is the same across the grade level. So even if you have a different teacher, the time is obviously the same, K-5, the synchronous schedule, and then the assignments and things will be the same.
Okay.
I hope that answers that. And I just want to say, for the asynchronous, you know, there's millions of ways to do these schedules, but we wanted that block of time in the middle of the day, one, for students to have a break, but also so that older students, our fifth graders, if you have a fifth grader and a second grader and a kindergartner, your fifth grader can help. They can be part of the solution. This is a good time for independent growth. I'm talking from a fifth grade mom perspective here. So it is time for her to step up a little bit. So there are things that they can do, and we wanted them to be able to, so they can recess together, they can play together, they can go outside together, they can eat together. It just gives the families a break. So that, I know it's going to be a little wonky at first, but the goal was that our K-5 kids could be on that same time together to give you guys a little bit of a break as well. So, and I talk too much, so we have about 5 minutes, Ms. Keith.
Okay, we'll get through it. So if my child was in a reading group at lower, will that carry over into upper, and will they meet virtually?
So we are still working on reading support. We do have reading support like at lower. We only have one interventionist, but this year we actually have 2 reading core interventionists and a math core interventionist. So once we do that second week of screeners, and we have all the information transferred over from lower, then we would be recreating. Now, can we do the exact same thing we would do in person? That would be very difficult. 5 days, the LLI program that we use is 5 days a week, 30 minutes mandated. That would be additional time each week for the students. But we will have small group instruction. Some of what Ms. Jones, our reading interventionist, will do is she will co-teach. So if there are 5 students who would normally be in LLI, she in one classroom, which is one of the things we work on, she may co-teach with that teacher. Let's say Ms. Mena, one of our new 3rd grade teachers. She'd co-teach with Ms. Mena. And then she would go, when it's time for small group, she would pull her kids into a small group and be able to do some reading intervention there. So yes, it's part of our plan, but those, normally we don't identify those groups and get going on that till about 3-4 weeks into school.
Okay, this next question's for me. So I heard that tomorrow there's a lower meeting. Yes, there is. So any families from lower, I hope that you can make it. The link has not been sent out yet because I'm a little nervous about Zoom bombers. So tomorrow morning, watch for a link and you can join us tomorrow.
Yeah.
A couple thank yous, thank
Oh,
yous.
thank you.
Appreciate those. And it looks like that is it for our questions.
Okay, I'm gonna go back then to end. Man, sometimes we're good at time management. I just want to bring us back here, if it'll let me. Our one word at Fuel this year is resilience. We're gonna have like a bamboo theme, I think, because it bends but doesn't break. We know this is gonna be a tough year for all of us, but I hope you can feel from this town hall and from the work I know a lot of you know our teachers that we've been working, the district has been working so hard this summer to make this the best we can for the kids, and we have their best interests always at heart. So I'll be again sending these girls mindsets out every Sunday at 5 p.m. So we can all take a breath. And we are here for you. If you have ideas and things you want us to try, always just send Miss Keith, send Mr. George, send us an email and let us know. We get our best ideas from you guys and from the kids often. And so this is us. So we're so excited if you're going to be here in Montessori or third grade. We're very excited to have you. We're going to have some fun this year and we will work through it all together. So thank you for coming. And
Bye, everybody.
night.
Good night, everyone.
Great seeing my babies, all my babies on here. Thank you.